at Globex lows. But more importantly, it's going to be right back here, I believe, on the backside of this downtrend, which put us right at 1798, right in this area right here. Right, that's going to be our first test for the sellers. If we can actually get below the 1796, 1798 area in general, right, there's a ton of space to fill in below. Now, I'm not bearish at all. It's just a scenario that I'm looking at as a possibility of getting to the downside. We'd have quite a bit of work to get there, and you'd almost certainly have to think that at this 1800 level, there'd be buyers willing to step in, right? And so I think the more likely scenarios that we have are for today are two. And I want to look real quick at what NQ is doing off the open here to see if it's trailing or leading us. Okay, and so NQ is pushing its highs as well. On Friday morning, actually to the downside, NQ let us down, if you'll see. I'm going to show you here. And it's been the leader the entire way on the majority of days to the upside. So if we look at Friday here real quick, and let's look at the day session, right? You'll see here on ES, when we were holding this 1798, excuse me, I was in the wrong spot. We were holding this 1798 in the morning pretty nicely, excuse me. We were holding this area very nicely before, if we look at NQ, I've got to find a piece of software that makes it easier to switch. If we look at NQ here on Friday morning, thank you. Okay, this was our same big chart here. Okay, this is the same period here where ES was holding and NQ broke to the downside and eventually shook NQ down below that 98. And what we ended up doing was trapping sellers down here. And then when we got back above on ES, back above that 1798, sellers were trapped, and it gave us that slow grind up that we've been so used to in the middle of the day to push us to new highs on the day. But it took forever to get it. Also, Friday, by the way, I just want to make a quick note. Friday was incredibly difficult in the morning because no one knew which way we wanted to take it. And if you'll notice, while we were trading sideways on ES, NQ did start this slow grind down, which has been the opposite of what it's done almost every day, which is lead us to the upside. So I'll keep my eyes on NQ for kind of having a clue. If I see NQ go to new highs, right, I'm not going to be overly eager to take a short on ES this morning. And preferably, I'm not taking a short from either direction. Let's get rid of this here for a second, and let's go to the volume profiles real quick. And see where our support areas are going to be. Okay. 24-hour profile, the first area that I see that's going to give us a good area of support is right in this area right here. See if I'll straighten it out for me. There we go. That's going to be our first area of support. The problem that we have here is that this area right in here was incredibly poorly auctioned, right? So what the market usually likes to do, I can give you an example of that. See how we were poorly auctioned right in this area right here? The market likes to come in, fill the area that was poorly auctioned, and then reject out of that. So it wouldn't be surprising all the way down to this area, the 1790.92, to come in, get filled in, even trade a little bit past it, right? And then come all the way back up to close. Now, what's essential to maintain the upside in the market is that A, we close above 1800, but more, if we can't make a push above the 1812 area, right? Essentially, people are going to read that as a double top or an attempt at a double top. And technically, it could bring sellers in. It's hard to imagine because there simply have been no serious sellers. And all of our downside moves have been precipitated, at any rate, significant downside moves have been precipitated by a gap down in the morning, not a gap up. It could be different this time, but again, we're just not getting the scenario that we would need for a downside move. And even if we came back in here, right, if we look at the majority, if we look at the themes that have been going on through this entire move, going all the way back to September, right, if we had a downside move on this, right, it would look something like this. We'd come down, we'd get heavy selling pressure. This would extend us from where we are right now. If we got into the 1792 area, it would extend us down somewhere between 16 and 20 points, right, from wherever the high is going to end up being. We've been getting responsive sellers, and it wouldn't surprise me to push right back up into this 1800, right? You have to think, because we're stretched so far and the moves have been a little bit larger, we have to think really that there could be multiple 10-point rotations that are possible, particularly with as we're moving closer to the Christmas break and the New Year's break, the market's going to get thinner and thinner. People have done really well in the year, and they just don't have a lot of incentive to sell, right? If we look at the larger picture, let me see how I'm doing time, 10 minutes. I still have a couple minutes here. If we look at the bigger picture, if you're long, there's really no reason, unless you're just micromanaging your account, but if you're a fund manager, there's really no reason to be concerned until we get below this area right here, which is all the way back at 1740, 1750. There's not even any damage done, technically, until we get below this area right here, this 1770 area. The 1770 area is key. Let me get rid of the other drawings. I apologize, guys. This particular software doesn't work as smoothly as I'd like it to. So this 1770 is key, right? And no major damage is done until we're below 1740. So that's a good 70 points away. And by the time we've gotten that, that's almost a complete correction that we've had. Also, looking on the downside, it's important to remember that should we fail that 1712, right? The average pullback from high to low has been 30 points from the very high to the very low, and most of them have been closer to 25. So if that's the case, and we're currently trading at this 1810 area, that's going to put us right back at the 85 neighborhood, right? That's going to be the average correction we've had to this point, and until we exceed the average pullback, in my mind, there's no reason to even thinking in bearish terms and that there will be buyers underneath. Of course, you have to leave the scenario open for anything can happen. So last thing I want to look at is what we're seeing on the overnight trends and the trends remaining from yesterday to see what would break. Hold on one second. Pull these up again. There we go. Get rid of all this. Okay. So this is ES overnight. This is the 24-hour. And we see until we really get below 1804, this is holding the trend line from the lows on Friday. Now, trend lines, for those of you that are new in the webinar, I just look at them as lines on the highway. No one's supposed to cross a solid white line, right? But they do. So they're just a point of location to look for possible buyer reaction or seller reaction, depending on where the trend line is, right? And then the other thing that it tells me is, through looking at this chart, for the last several days, going back into Thursday and possibly since we set these lows here, that we've been setting a series of higher highs and higher lows. And that's one of the patterns I'd want to see before I get overly convicted to the short side. Secondly, we have to get below this 1802 area, followed by the 1796, right? That's on the 24-hour chart. On the daily chart, there's two prominent trends. One sitting here right below the 1790 area, and the other one sitting right here at 1802. So when I'm looking short, right, this would be a scenario that I'm looking at. Let's see if I can get this to move real quick. Okay. One of the scenarios that I'll be looking at, we open up, obviously we're going to come in, and I assume this is about the 1812 level, and I would actually look for two possibilities, either responsive sellers right off that 1812, looking for a double top, or in the scenario that I would actually prefer to trade off of is that we, I thought I had that set, but apparently not, or preferably we come up, we open here, we get up to 1812, we break 1812, right? Obviously, buyers are still in control. We come back down, if we come back down for a test, right? Then we close below. We would have we'd have buyers trapped from above, and we have possibility of getting a trap trade. In a trap trade, normally what I would look for, right, is that we would trade to the other end of the range, and that would bring us all the way back down to this 1798, 1800, and then followed by 1798 area. If we push back up by the same token, right, we push back down and we clear lows down here from Friday, right, and then we trade back above, and we get back above those lows, that would also set up another trap trade, and I'd expect to push back to the other end of the range. So those are the possibilities I see on the upside and the downside. I'm not going to be aggressive on the short side out of the gate. I'm not going to try to trade the double top trade. The reason why, too much cash on the sidelines. It'd simply be too easy to get run over, and I want to see the hand shown. And what I'd prefer to see if I'm going to take a trade, right, is I'd prefer to see a pattern that looks like this. I'd prefer to see up, rejection, and then a test back up. And that's probably where I'd prefer to take a short if I'm going to try it on the downside, but I'd rather see the break first. On the downside, the other scenario is 1804, I believe, is our low 1805 area, which is sitting right here, which is essentially our gap fill, right? I'd also wouldn't mind seeing it come in. The third scenario that's possible is we come in, we get below Globex lows, right? Buyers bring it back above and we sit on top of it, and that could cause another squeeze, slow squeeze in the afternoon, which as of late actually has not happened, but the majority of the trading days going back to September, that has been the pattern. Squeezes after 10:30 a.m. And if we get that, we could actually end up with an afternoon where we break this 1812.50. And if we get above 1812.50 in the afternoon, I would not want to stand in the way of a short in any of this to the upside. I would just let it go and look for long entries. I'm looking to trade it primarily to the long side, and the areas I'll be looking to take that trade to the long side will be two areas. I apologize, I didn't cover that earlier, but I'll cover it right now. I want an average of a 6-point rotation down, right? That brings me right in here before I'm looking for a low. Long, let me flip back to my other chart real quick because I know we're getting near the open. Okay, looks like we're opening 1810. What I want to see, okay, come up here. What I'd like to see is a nice rotation down from the high. So if the high is 1812.50 and we reject down, right? Right into this 1804.75, preferably the back of it, right? That would be the first place I'd be interested in taking along. If I'm looking for a 10-point rotation, that fits us beautifully into the white zone. One more note on the white zone for those of you that are new. The white zone works like kryptonite. As long as we're above, buyers are in control. However, the further we get away from the white zone, the less impact it has. I can tell you I'll almost certainly take a long first time into the white zone, looking for rotation up. Also, the last note that I'm going to leave here, mind your P&L, right? The entire goal here is we're focused on acquiring 2 points of profit per trade, right? We're looking for 1 to 2 trades a day. That's all you need to grow your account substantially, right? And then as we have a high rate of success, most traders that are trading underneath me are trading at somewhere between a 75 and 90% success rate in terms of execution and profits. So all we're looking is for 1 to 2 points. And for those guys who are trading more contracts and can leave a trailer on, that's where the icing on the cake comes in. So anyways, we're about to open up, guys. Have a great day, and I hope that helps some of you out. Have a wonderful day. I hope I did.